go from an ideation phase of a product to a prototype to an MVP, and then how to wireframe things in Figma. So yeah, cool guys. I'll just share my screen. I hope my screen is visible. And also guys, like if you have any questions, you can list it down on the chat box. So I'll like probably take at the chat once in a while. So you can like list down if you have any questions. So in order to define an MVP, or in order to look at what a product should actually be, we should look at what phases it goes through. So talking about how an idea works, first of all, we have a proof of concept. So let's say an idea strikes my mind. Now I want to check whether it is actually feasible or not, and can I execute it. So if I have the required skill sets, if I have the uh, team members who have those skill sets, yes, maybe I can execute that proof of concept. Once that stage is crossed, an idea goes to the prototyping phase. So any organization or any team, uh, within their in-house teams, they decide, okay, this is how we want this idea to look like. But it is not yet shared with the end users or the consumers. So it stays within the team, but they check it themselves that, okay, this is how we want to present it. But then there comes the final stage, or I would say the releasing stage of a product, where it is released to the users. And this stage is called the minimum viable product. So the MVP stands for how the user will use it. So maybe you wanted to present certain things based on your assumptions, based on your ideas, but then the user's interests might not completely intersect or overlap with whatever you had thought was right. So there comes the challenge of how do we modify what we had thought and align it with the user's thought. So MVPs are all about building something quickly and continuing to iterate it. So no first product or no first essential product is perfect. So that is the idea we are going to continue throughout, and we are going to build upon something basic so that it is good for releasing it to the users. Uh, Now this is like a very old meme in respect to okay, just a, yeah, cool guys. So yeah, so this meme is basically, it depicts how intelligent a founder or a set of people who are trying to build a product are, and the amount of those people who are present in the room. So the the bottom, you know, those who are very low on the intelligence level, you know, they would try to, you know, raise a lot of money, build a very pitch perfect product, and, you know, they would hire a PR firm and everything. They would spend a lot of money to think that their assumption is true, whereas it will never be the case that there exists a perfect product and it completely aligns with the user's interests. So, you know, those who have the ability and the the skill sets to iterate, to launch quickly and iterate, they are the ones who actually succeed. So if you look at uh, any product's journey, you would want to release something in the market first, and then start learning from the user on what actually should be done. So you're only really going to learn about any user when you put a product in front of them. So this is the basic roadmap of a product, how it goes, like starting from the ideation phase. We first of all define the problem. Now, the problem can be anything. So we identify what is the core set of problem. Then we question ourselves whether we can solve that problem or not. If we can solve that problem, we would quickly list down a set of features that we want the product to have, and after that, build and deliver it quickly. Now comes the real phase. We want to release it to the customers and then try to iterate it again and again. Like, so a lot of people think this hypothesis may be false, or we should probably wait for the right time to release a product, and a lot of thought and a lot of investment should be going on behind putting a product in front of the users. But that is actually wrong. So let's consider the example of the iPhone. Now, a lot of people would think about iPhone only in its third or fourth iteration phase. So that is the time when iPhone actually gained its value as we know of it today. But if we think of the first iPhone that was built, it was definitely a revolutionary product. But then it lacked a lot of basic features. So a feature like video capturing, or it just had 2G internet capabilities. So all of these were like basic limitations that we cannot even think of like blundering now. So even the iPhone wasn't a perfect product when it was initially launched. So it is always good to learn from the users and then iterate. Now, putting all of this knowledge into what goes on to build a software MVP, we would see two basic examples on how software MVPs were initially built and how they are known to us today. So the first example, like before going on to the first example, of course, we have a checklist of uh, basic needs that a software MVP should fulfill. So the first thing is it should be very quickly built. It should be very fast to build. Uh, Even if it has limited functionality, it is absolutely fine. And the third thing is it should appeal to a small set of users. So there's a saying that if you build a product that is used by 1,000 people but loved by only 10, that is worse than it is better to build a product which has only 100 users, and all of those 100 people like love the product, rather than like building it for 1,000 and then having only 1% of the people loving it. So we apply the same principles in terms of a software MVP as well. Now we'll look at the first example of the Facebook as it was named back then. So this is the first MVP, the first software MVP that Facebook had when it was launched in 2004. So going by the checklist, it was very quickly built by Mark Zuckerberg. The second thing is it should appeal to a very small set of users. Now, if you look at the description, it says we have opened up the Facebook for popular consumption at Harvard University. So it was only meant for uh, students at colleges and those who want to build social networks inside college. So it had very limited functionalities. Like there was no way for users to interact with posts. The like feature was introduced way later in 2009. Then brands and celebrities couldn't engage with followers. So one of the prime reasons why we know Facebook or Instagram today, or at least like 3 4 years back, is because people could directly connect with the celebrities they looked up to or the brands they looked up to. But that was not the case when it was initially launched. So that feature was absent. And then if let's say I don't have any friends to connect to, what will I do with the platform? So Facebook found a solution to even that and provided a constantly updating newsfeed. So by that, people won't feel like I don't have anything to do with the platform if I don't have a proper social network. So these were the three major limitations back then, but still it was a great success because it had checked all the 3 points that we mentioned in the checklist. Now, the next thing we look at is air bed and breakfast. So, air bed and breakfast is like, can anyone list it down on the group chat what this product is known as right now? No, no, it is not bookings. Can anyone else take a guess on what this product is right now? Yeah, yeah, absolutely correct. So, it is Airbnb, uh, which initially stood for air bed and breakfast. Now, it had very limited functionalities. It only allowed the people to list a room and book a rental. So even the new listing feature was introduced way later, and it was not there back then. So it was like having very limited functionalities. That is one point. The second thing is it was built very quickly. So Brian and Joe, who were the founders of Airbnb, so they were actually looking to rent their own room and list it out somewhere because they had to split the rent that was being paid. But they could not find any such product to do the same, so they introduced this. So they built this very quickly and in a very short span of time. So um, the Airbnb that we know of today, it is not the same as back then because back then it had no payments feature. There was no map view, uh, no exact location finder to where the rented properties could be found, and it was also meant for only conferences. So people who attended a tech conference, they had to be part of. They were initially taken as the target demographic for this Airbnb. So, but still, it uh, evolved to become a huge hit because it had a very simple and core addressed product that appealed to the users at that time. Now, like this is an analogy that was given by the managing director of Combinator. So he said this hair on fire problem. Imagine that while you are listening to this presentation, your hair catches fire. Now, I am a startup founder. I have a product. What is the most ideal product you would expect me to deliver? Like, you can put it down on the chat if you want. What is the most ideal product you would want me to deliver if your hair catches fire? Hair extinguisher. Okay, nice. Yeah. Uh, okay, so it is some sort of an extinguisher, or you know, some people might say a bucket of water or whatever. But the thing is, even if I have a pile of sand and I give it to you, if you are desperate enough, you would put that pile of sand on your hair to, smother the fire. So this is basically the customer. If the customer is in dire need of something, he would take the product and try to use it to his advantage no matter what. So this is what the customer is ideally going to do. Now it does not need to be the perfect product or the very ideal product, but then it at least is of some utility to him. All right. So finally, like after all of this discussion, after all of these examples, we come to a proper conclusion as to how we define an MVP. It is a product that solves a dire need of a defined user, but is not complete and perfect. So the highlighted points are very important. Uh, Only if you have a target demographic who is in dire need of something, it will consider your product even if it is not complete and perfect. So they'll use it no matter what. Now yeah, so after like these two sections of discussing about what an MVP is and like everything, we finally come to the agenda of the day. That is, how do we build a software MVP or the wireframes of software MVPs using Figma? So, uh, all of those who might not be knowing, or at least have some introduction to Figma, it is a collaborative and very user friendly design tool. So, completely free, like not completely free, it is paid for larger teams and organizations. But yeah, you can use it for free. And we are going to create a sample wireframe for a problem statement very quickly. Now, why do we use Figma? Of course, it is very, very versatile. uh, it is versatile as to create a lot of things. You know, any design that you want or any structure that you want, you can create user flows, you can create presentations. By the way, if some of you might have guessed it correctly, but yeah, this presentation is also made in Figma. So it is, yeah, that versatile. And it is collaborative, so multiple people can work on the same link, on the same file, and then put down their thoughts, brainstorm all the ideas, and everything can be done. And it is also very user friendly. You will come to know how. Uh, like I'll show you a demo of it. So yeah. Uh, Now, in order to use Figma, first of all, I'll have to go to my browser. Uh, it follows a very basic. Yeah, guys. So I hope my screen is visible. So we'll just log in through Figma. So if you are a new user, firstly you'll have to sign up, and then you can start using Figma. So this is the basic interface, the home interface that you have, and there are various design files. So in order to start a new project, it is termed as project for you, but in Figma it is termed as a design file. So you would click on a new design file, and you get this infinite canvas thing. So since I already have the desktop application, so I'll open it there. It'll be much more comfortable for me to do. But yeah, it is the same thing. The browser or the web application, it is just the same thing. So yeah, guys. Now I'll just quickly go through the basic tools that we have on Figma. Now this right here is the select tool, which is by default. You can like select anything, you can drag, or you can move around the canvas. So if you want to move around the canvas, you just use the middle mouse button and then drag. So that is how you can move around. Um, yeah. Now the second property is very, very important, which is a frame tool. Now frames are in itself a very important entity of Figma because of two primary reasons. Now, anything that you see, you know, this presentation, each and every slide, if you want to create, you know, uh, any screens for a phone, or you want to display an application, so you basically need to create a frame in order to display the screen that you want to show something on. So for example, I'll just go to Android small, and this is a basic Android screen that I have. Now all of the things that you are going to do are over this frame. So if I want to put in a text, I'll go to this text tool. You know, it is as simple as that. And if you want to use certain basic shapes, you can go right over here, and here you find like rectangle, line, arrow, ellipse, polygon, all of these shapes. So the most common tool that we are going to use in terms of shapes is rectangle. So the shortcut key is R. So I'm just going to create a basic rectangle here. Now, you might have seen all of your applications and everything. they have rounded rectangles, like the corners are rounded, because it appeals more on the visual front. So that is why UI designers do it. But for today, we are not going to talk about the design aspect. We are just going to talk about the structuring and how the user flow is going to be for creating any product. Now, if you want, you can like make it rounded, but I'm going to keep it as it is. So before moving on further with our first problem statement and creating a wireframe, actually, I would want to differentiate, like highlight the difference between groups and frames. So there, there is like primary two differences between groups and frames. One is the frames have the capability to add constraints, and we can also clip the content that is present in a frame. So, for example, uh, in this frame right here, I have uh, a basic Android screen. Now, I have created a rectangle that is this big. So, if I place it inside this frame, you can see on the layers tab at the left. So if I place this, yeah, if I place it inside the frame, then you can see that it is properly clipped to just the screen, and it is not extending outwards as it was otherwise. So this is a very useful feature for a frame, that we want to make sure whatever we are going to display stays within a screen. So we are planning on clipping the content. Also, you can move it around as you wish. Now, another key feature of frames over groups is, uh, let's say I have to create a navigation bar. Now, for those of you who don't know, a navigation bar is basically, um, it is just like those rectangles that you have at the bottom of your screen, and it allows you to go and traverse through different features in one go. So let's say I have a navigation bar. Now I have various touch points in this. So um, a web application. So I'll just put it all on the top. Anyways, so although a web application does not have these kind of like the rounded kind of touch points, but yeah, I'm going to use it just for simplicity. So if I define a constraint from here, that from the left, I want this distance to be fixed. So now if I elongate the frame, it is not going to make any change to this particular part. Whereas if I do the same in case of a group, uh, it is going to behave very weirdly. So I'll just select all of these, duplicate it, Control G for group. You see the difference, right? If I try to elongate this now, even the touch points are changing. The distance between them is changing. Their properties are changing. They are scaling up laterally. So I don't want all of this to happen. So in case I want this to be placed on a web application, yeah, I'll just define this constraint from the right. Yeah, this will be what on top. Let's keep it 3 features, by the way. If we keep 3 features, then that is like we can define a central constraint as well. So yeah, now I'll just define a right constraint for this and a top constraint. And for this, I'll define a center and scale constraint. I hope this works now. Oh, okay. Scale constraint, scale constraint. So whenever we put a constraint, uh, it is not going to scale. So as you can see, uh, since this entire thing is a frame, I did not do it the right way, but yeah, you get the idea. If I define a constraint for the left hand side, the right hand side, and the center one, so it is going to be the same in the case of a mobile screen and the same in the case of a desktop screen also. So, but it is not possible in the case of groups. So it allows us to be flexible with whatever size we want the nav bars to scale in, and yeah, that is the basic concept of uh, frames and groups. Now, we define wireframes just because we want to make sure that we are not following a random structure or a random flow. We are properly informed on what the next step is going to be for our product. So, wireframes are just basic 2D structures of digital products that define the usability and flow. So it is completely fine if it is not perfect. So like a sample wireframe that again we had done for a project was this one. So all of these places that you can see are like placeholders. So these placeholders consist of certain images, or it can be a preview of a document or anything. So this is how it should basically be. Now, we define all the key features, we define the placeholders, and we define the basic flow that we should be having. Now, we'll try to make a wireframe. based on the sample problem statement that we have. So it is basically creating wireframes for an application like DPay. Uh, so yeah, the problem statement says that during college fests, there are various vendors on campus grounds. Now they sell like there are a lot of food stalls and beverage stalls, but if all the students uh, carry large amounts of cash and try to make payments through that, it is going to be a lot of hassle for them. And also the vendors are vulnerable to theft. Like if a lot of people go at once to any vendor, they are very vulnerable to theft. So the aim of this project is to design a mobile payment application that ensures cashless transactions within college festivals. So now this app will allow students to preload money into a digital wallet, which is already done on the back end. So we have like a fixed money allotted to the wallet, and it should be linked to the college ID card, which can then be used to seamlessly pay the vendors by scanning a QR code. Now, I have also defined what you should be focusing on in the wireframes. So, the first step should involve a user sign up and a wallet linking flow. Now, we'll try to, copy this problem statement and we'll try to work on this. So, the first essential feature that I find is it should have a user sign up. Now, the second feature is it should be having a dashboard with balance displayed. Now, we should also be able to browse active food stalls. We should be having a QR code scan payment, and we should be able to see the payment history. So these are the key features that I could identify based on this problem statement. And for this, we are trying to create the wireframes. So our first step is definitely user sign up. Then we'll move on to dashboard. Then we are also going to discover the active food stalls. By the way, like here it is important to note that within the dashboard itself, you don't necessarily see a separate page for QR code scanning and payment. So it should be integrated with the dashboard itself. So I feel like I should be linking the QR code scanning feature here. The final step is payment history. All right. So now, as we had already done, we'll try to create a basic frame for a screen. So for user signups, I'll just create a placeholder here. Now it can be, just the name of the entity. So in our case, it will be DPay. Generally, placeholders are represented using these diagonally crossed rectangles. So uh, we'll quickly try to make a user sign up screen. Now, of course, if the user is trying to sign up, uh, they'll also be prompted to have an input webmail ID. So this is an input. I'll just try to make it a different color and also add a stroke so that it looks like This is an input. Enter. Let me. Uh, Now, finally, the user will be prompted to sign up or log in. So we'll have this login button here. No need of stroke in this one. All right. So this is a very basic user sign up screen that we have created. So we considered all the essential elements, that is the entity's name, the input button, the input box, and also the login button. So now we'll try to replicate the same process for the other steps as well. For a dashboard, I'll just remove all of this. Now, a dashboard should display the balance. So that is one key feature that we are prompted to include. So we'll just be placing balance. The balance can be written over here, and this can include like any placeholder image. Uh, Now, the QR code scanning payment can be a feature right below the available balance displayed. So it can be, you know, uh, a separate button. I'll just make it, yeah, make payment, 24 maybe, yeah. And also, we just want to ensure that the user is clear about its functionality. So we'll include a QR code kind of placeholder image here. So yeah. Now, uh, as we move ahead in the flow, I'm noticing that there is a feature of active food stalls, and then there is also a feature of payment history that should be integrated to this particular application. So, how should I go about it? Uh, here, here I would generally look at other ways of doing this. So, there is no particular link between active food stalls and payment history. So, of course, I would want to keep them as separate pages. Now, in order to traverse through those pages, I would definitely need a navigation bar. So, I would place a navigation bar right here. So, this navigation bar can again include like uh, three touch points. Yeah. So this navigation bar again includes three touch points. So these three touch points are basically one is of course the home button. So uh, one is the home. This is where we are present right now. I might as well group these two so that we can repeatedly use it for convenience. Yeah. Uh, yeah. So the second button can be for going to a page that displays all the active food stalls. So I can name it stalls. and the third one can be history for all the payments that are done. Now, from the dashboard or the home page itself, I might want to go to check all of the active food stalls that are present, and I might as well buy something from it. So I'll just include active food stalls here. Now, the important point to note is this is not going to be an exhaustive list. So for a user that sees that, okay, there is an option to make payment. If I go towards the stall and then I scan their QR code, I'll be able to make the payments directly to them. But also, if I remotely want to pay them, since there is a lot of crowd near the stall, if I want to remotely pay them and then show the transaction history, I should be able to do that as well. So for that, this we are trying to include this stalls page as well. Now I'll just reduce the opacity for this, just to say that this is not an exhaustive list. So the next page that we are going to do is for active food stalls. Yeah. Now this page would include the list of exhaustive, like the exhaustive list of all the active food stalls that are present. So this would also include a back button. Uh, I'll just put an arrow over there. Yeah, guys. So this is our back button. Now we can go back. So the basic flow is I land at the dashboard. If I scroll, I go to the active food stalls page. Now there will be an indicator which shows that, okay, I'm at the stalls page. I have traversed from home to the stalls page. And again, I can go back to the dashboard. So there's a scroll transition that is going to be involved in this. I'll just mention it here. If you scroll, then you are going to land at this page. Uh, okay, this is just like going next. Um, After that, we have this payment history feature. So for this, we don't necessarily need a back button. So I would just list down payment history. All right. So here we have firstly the stall name, and on the right, we'll be having the amount spent. Same for the others. Stall name, amount spent. Yeah, that's it. So we'll be having the entire payment history uh, that is accessible to us. Now, if a user clicks make payment, we need to have a specific flow for that as well. So let's say a user has gone to a food stall. Now he wants to make a payment. So for this, we would need a specific flow. I would duplicate this. Just eliminate this one. Mm. The main two things that are off display are the amount and the stall name. So it clearly indicates that we are paying this amount to this stall, and then we can authenticate it using this make payment button. Now, of course, we don't need this active food stalls thing. We also don't need the navigation bar since it is a proper action. What we might have is a numeric keypad here. So I'll just keep some placeholder for it and write numeric keypad. So this is how the flow proceeds. And finally, after the payment is successfully made, we'll have a prompt saying payment is successful. Of course, specifying the amount and the stall name. So payment successful. An icon, a checkbox, just to show that this is done, and the make payment would not be there. So another important thing is we would also be having certain transaction ID. So all of the details of the transaction will be displayed here. So transaction details would be displayed here, and that's it. So this is how to make a basic flow and a wireframe for uh, any user-based application. So the key things to notice here is you should think from the perspective of the user. Okay, user sign up. What next is the user going to do? Okay, he's going to land on a dashboard. Now, what is the next most probable step he's going to take? There is two ways to go about it. One is either he can scroll to view all the active food stalls and then select this make payment option. So from the active food stalls also, we can have this option of make payment. Yeah. Or he is going to, directly scan the QR code and then make the payment. So for this, we have this user flow. And then if he selects a particular food stall and then wants to make a payment, it is again the same user flow. So after a payment is successful, this is displayed. And finally, we can see the transaction history using a separate page. So this is how wireframes basically work. And that is pretty much it for the basic Figma lesson that we have for today. Uh, I hope that it was like not that boring or that uninteresting. Uh, I did struggle in a few points, but yeah, that is like obviously we'll improve with time. But yeah, so in order to get better at this practice of wireframing, I got this GPT generated problem statement. So it asks us to create basic wireframes for a weather app. Now this app allows users to input a location and view the current temperature conditions, hourly forecast, and a 7-day extended forecast for that area. Now, it should be monochrome wireframes. Now, monochrome is basically, if you see it in scientific terms, it is, of course, single wavelength colors. But yeah, monochrome is like simple wireframes uh, that should be focused on layout and structure rather than visual design. This is very important. While creating wireframes, product managers or anyone does not think about, okay, how it should be visually appealing, is it good on the design perspective or not, what font am I using, So all these come under the visual design aspects, which later on the designers are going to take care of it. So by the way, like talking about visual design, like one of our one of my friends, Abhijit only, like from TPF, he has an Instagram page where he constantly uploads like amazing UI design stuff. So I highly recommend you check it out. UI UX Abhijit. And also like the design front is something completely different, and although it is essential, it is not a very basic necessity to know for a product manager. But we should be knowing how to structure things, how the layout works, and also how to generate user flows, thinking from a user's perspective. So all these should be present. I'll probably share this presentation in the community so that you guys can get a reference. And yeah, this problem statement is good for a starting point, I feel. Uh, that's that's basically it for the session, guys. If you have any comments or any suggestions, do let me know. But yeah. Guys,